The personality we're here with today on Mic Open is an enigma.
Why do you have it? Because you don't have the guts, and चार नींबू निचोड़ने से दूध भी इतना नहीं फटता.
That dialogue of yours is very
that?
famous.
Yes. I just clarified. I don't want you to mishear it. Why do I get into problems where there's already been a criminal contempt slapped on me? And thank you. I remembered Sai almost every day. I wake up and say thank you, Sai, for saving my ass.
Are you comparing it with an essential service person?
More than essential. People usually say, sir, are any questions off limits? I say, as long as no answers are off limits, I'm fine.
I need to start reading more.
There is no end to reading. Where they say that a High Court judge, I forget his name now, was about to be elevated to the Supreme Court. And the file went to then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. And his name was struck down. You know why? Because he did the fatal error of attending the funeral of a RSS chief.
And you have also often talked about how judiciary has double standards when it comes to a specific religion.
Oh yes.
And when it comes to Hindus, they are absolutely nonchalant enough.
Yes. And then said the Supreme Court respects all religions. But I said the Supreme Court might respect all religions. When people say this is a fascist government, Hindutva fascist. Arey bhai, Shah Bano judgment came. It was a great judgment. And that decision was overturned by the government. Yes, because you wanted to appease the Muslims, right? यहाँ पे did Modi overturn the Sabarimala judgment? क्यों भाई? Discriminate क्यों कर रहे हो menstruating women के साथ? वो दम नहीं है Supreme Court में. People believe that you would govern better if everyone was a sheep.
Let's unravel some thoughts from the person who is 100% unfiltered.
तो जेल में भिजवाओगी मैं बता रहा हूँ.
And you don't apologize, we all know that.
Yes, oh my God.
Welcoming Dr. Anand Ranganathan. Thank you so much for joining us today,
pleasure,
Dr.
Sanya.
Ranganathan. It's a pleasure to have you
Not
with
at
us
all.
today.
All mine.
In fact, when I was thinking of inviting you and hosting you today, the first thought that crossed my mind was the humor and the sarcasm you bring to a lot of public debates.
Thank you.
Especially centered around the judiciary often. So I mean, the idea that I had in mind was to understand from you, of course, the fact that you are sitting at the intersection of a lot of conversations in the judiciary and the legal system. But you are also a man of science.
Yes.
Any thoughts to share with us as to why you choose to do that, specifically with the judiciary and the legal system?
Right. So first of all, thank you so much, Sanya. It's an absolute pleasure. I watched your amazing podcast with Jay Sai. And so it's absolutely fantastic. Great job you're doing. Away from the podcast as well, the lobby thing. It's a question that I've asked myself repeatedly. Why do I get into problems where there's already been a criminal contempt slapped on me? And thank you. I remembered Sai almost every day. I wake up and say thank you, Sai, for saving my ass. I think the reason for that is that I truly believe that law as a domain, as a subject, should be included in STEM. By STEM, I mean science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and medicine. I think any field that has its workings or machinations based on logic and rationale is, according to me, already on the way, on the path to science. So that's how I've started to believe that law is part of STEM. Now, if that is the premise or an axiom, then it follows that everything that happens in law, somebody who's, as you set it quite grandly, I mean, I'm a man of science, I don't believe myself as that, but it's just, I love the subject. And if you love science, then you would love law as well.
Interesting.
And I truly believe that man's greatest invention, we're always categorizing things, which is the greatest invention, and you look around yourself, and man's greatest invention is justice. How many people think about that?
Yeah.
I truly believe we are animals, we are amoeba, we are bacteria, we've all had a complete common origin. Life has no purpose whatsoever. We are here as a creation of chance. And by the time, till such time we are here, we have to make ourselves more comfortable. That is what the goal of science has been, right from the time when fire or wheel were invented to right now when you have vaccines and transport or whatnot. Millions of inventions. But the greatest invention is justice. Why don't we give it credit that animals don't have this sense of justice? They haven't invented this system.
Yes.
And if you've invented a system, I believe you have to take care of it.
Okay.
If I believe, and I do believe justice is the greatest invention, it has to be faultless, flawless. And in India, it isn't. And it vexes me, it troubles me. I mean, I can rattle out the data that, Sanya, you already know. 54 million, is it, the cases that are pending? More than the population of South Korea, of Kenya. And at the speed with which we are dealing with, disposing of these cases, somebody calculated it will take us 323 years.
Yeah.
By the time, I don't know whether we'll have a drug for longevity. I don't know how many of us would be alive by then. But it's in absolute shambles. You have in India, for example, sorry, I promised I won't rattle out this data, but I think it's important to put it in perspective as to why I believe somebody needs to look into this. I've already given you the background as to why justice is important for a scientist. But you have 20 judges to a million Indian population. In the US, it's 150. Some say it's even 170 judges. Not only do we have abysmal number of judges to take care of the cases, 30% of all judicial positions in high courts are lying vacant. This is crime happening right now. This is crime. 25% of all judicial positions around India, right from magistrates to high court to whatever, are lying vacant. 75% of all Indian prisoners are under trials. When you say bail is a rule, jail is exception, suddenly jail mein wo, I can, as I said, I mean, it's just a fool's errand to list out all those things, but I want somebody to look into this because it is the most precious invention. Matlab, you give a man a choice. What do you want? A car, an electricity, or a bulb, or air conditioner, or God knows, a vaccine. And on one side, if injustice has been done to you, the choice is either you have all those amenities, comforts, or somebody metes out justice to you. 100 out of 100, what do you think people would choose? They would choose the justice.
Definitely justice.
And you say definitely, emphatically. And doesn't that prove my point? That an invention has been discarded, ignored. That is crime.
You've called it catastrophe in the past
beyond,
as well.
It is beyond catastrophe.
You say. Yeah. But how do you see it from a solution-oriented point of view? Because you have talked about the vacationing of the judges.
Yes.
How the fact that they take almost half year of leaves versus the armed forces or versus what the
doctors,
police.
Yes.
So you compare both.
Absolutely, yes. And you know why I compare? Because for me, justice is, if not the most important job in India, meting out the justice, or as important as any other job. So when you have doctors, as I say, judges can be on vacation, judiciary cannot. You see what I mean?
Yes.
So of course, judges, why shouldn't they be on vacation? Nobody wants to work 365 days a year, 80 hours a week, nudge, wink, Mr. Narayana Murthy.
Or burn them out for that matter.
Of course.
Overwork them.
The point is, if a judge is going on a vacation, if a doctor in an emergency is going on a vacation, legitimately, he's earned it, then another doctor takes his position at all points. I mean, you can't say, okay, you are guarding Siachen Glacier, guys, हफ्ते भर के लिए जो है छुट्टी पे चले जाओ, वहाँ पे कोई है ही नहीं, या एक vacation Siachen trench बना दो, that's nonsensical. Especially when you have the catastrophic data of 54 million, 53 odd million cases pending, not enough judges. You can't afford this.
So are you comparing it with an essential service per se?
More than essential. More than. Because I just get, any sensible person say, भाई मेरे को ये नहीं मिल रहा, वो नहीं मिल रहा, ये नहीं मिल रहा, और मुझे justice नहीं मिल रहा. आपको क्या चाहिए? See, right now, I'm not, no injustice has been done to me in any case or domain. You know, I had a contempt case which Sai fought, but there are people whose life depends on justice meted out. They're languishing in jails for years. Yesterday, believe it or not, the High Court, I think, disposed of a case. It was to do with property. Do you know how old this case was? 1947.
Very common.
There are
It's a commonality.
1,35,000 cases that are more than 35 years old.
Yes.
There are 2.5 lakh rape and POXO cases that are pending. Where do I go? You know, so it is. If there is one domain that needs to be looked at in our country, all focus has to go there. It is judiciary, law, and our sense of what we believe is the best way forward.
Do you think the judiciary insulates itself from the accountability that it should have?
100%.
Because when we're looking at
तुम तो
appointments...
जेल में भिजवाओगे मुझे बता रहा हूँ लड़ने भी आ जाना यार साई का नंबर भी है तुम्हारा
I'm not that good,
कहाँ आ
sir.
गया मैं कहाँ फंस गया
Just telling you that I'm not that good. I'm not good enough
अरे
to fight your case. And you don't apologize. We all know
yes,
that.
yes. Oh my God. Yes.
So, but I'm just thinking out loud, and I think so too.
Yeah.
I think that they do sit in ivory towers, and I do think that they insulate themselves from accountability, at least when it comes to dispensation of justice, in terms of pendency issues, in terms of appointments also.
Yes.
Why do you think that happens? Is it to do with coloniality? Is it to do with the fact that they are all powerful or one of the three pillars? But so is the parliament. They are accountable.
Yes.
I'm looking at a solution here, if
Absolutely,
we can,
and I'll
or a
give you
balance.
because the fact is, as I said, not because I came prepared, but because I've thought about this issue and why it is so dear to me. I've already explained to you. Legal issues are, according to me, part of science. They are as scientific as molecular biology or chemistry or physics. Second, justice is an invention of man, the greatest invention. So I am worried about this, and that is why I have my own ways and means of looking at it. You may call them solutions or not. Number one, when you asked why does this happen, I have no problem in a judge sitting in an ivory tower isolating himself or herself. Why not? You know, some of the greatest scientists, some of the greatest writers completely isolated themselves. But if that isolation is affecting the job, then yes, I have a problem. You know, to give you one example, why are the judges selecting themselves? How is this a democracy? I mean, do the doctors select themselves? There is an exam for it.
Yeah.
It is a very tough exam. Well, tough is relative now because anybody who scores -8 out of 800 also gets to become a doctor now. We are living in that age. But the fact of the matter is, every vocation, every discipline, if it has to be taken seriously, you have to have an element of an exam, a democratically elected system to choose a person. Otherwise, how different are you from when you accuse any political party of being a dynasty-based party or a scion or whatever? You're the same. Doctors come through some of the toughest exams. Scientists, DRDO scientists. I mean, would you find it okay if the defense of a country hinges on a technology that is developed by DRDO and a DRDO scientist comes along, अरे यार ये मेरा फूफा का वो है, ये अच्छा scientist होगा, मैं इसको ले लेता हूँ. क्यों भाई? You know, and we all know how crucial first mover advantage is. Even, you know, when politicians say, well, ultimately, yeah, you call Rahul Gandhi a dynast and this and that, but does he not win elections? Fair enough. But there are maybe hundreds of people more gifted than Rahul Gandhi or any other dynast who haven't got that first mover advantage. You know, it's all about the first mover advantage when you come to selecting non-democratically.
Okay.
And in judiciary, to have that is beyond crime, because the sense of responsibility you have, you can make or break a man's life or an institution's life. And the double standards of it. Just to give you another example, Sanya, you have the justices saying, yes, reservation system should be followed. And I am for reservation system, of course, targeted and for a limited period of time. That's another discussion altogether. But when the Supreme Court says we must have 33% women reservations, we must have reservations for Dalits and SC, STs, why is there no reservation in higher judiciary, bhai?
So you think there should be reservation in the higher
Why
judiciary?
you have double standards? That itself is a crime.
Acha, so you're saying that firstly they are appointing themselves.
Yes.
And then they are saying that reservation should
हम
not
नहीं,
apply
हाँ,
here.
हम मेरिट से जाएंगे. क्यों भाई? डॉक्टर के लिए आप रिजर्वेशन रखा हुआ है आपने उस सिस्टम में, इंजीनियर्स के लिए रखा है, साइंटिस्ट के लिए रखा है, हर फील्ड में रखा हुआ है, पार्लियामेंट में रख दिया रिजर्वेशन. हायर जुडिशरी में क्यों नहीं रखा है?
Even doctors, I mean, there is the main thing
Yes.
where you're saving lives.
Yes.
Basically.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
which, if you're talking of merit and you say higher judiciary में merit से हम ले रहे हैं, तो भैया emergency में merit नहीं चाहिए आपको. आपकी किसी की जान बचा रहे हो आप, और उसमें आप कह रहे हो कि reservation is fine, but judiciary में fine नहीं है. So, it's, as I say, Supreme Court has a standard. Supreme Court has a standard. So, I've said it twice. So, double standard.
Okay. You've also mentioned how the judiciary, particularly, is also very hell-bent on making sure that it doesn't appoint people who are not from within their circles. You had said, not that I want to reflect on it again and again, but you had said that independent से आज तक 200 families से judges appoint हुए हैं.
वो data था.
हाँ.
Supreme Court judges, 250 families.
Acha,
Yeah.
250 families.
Yeah.
Not that I'm reflecting heavily on the data, but you also said that neutrality should be one of the key features for appointments, and
Yes.
merit-based systems and interviews से judges appoint होने चाहिए.
Yes.
But neutrality as a subject or as an issue in India is very relative.
Yes.
Especially when institutions get captured by nepotism or by political pressure also.
Correct. Yeah.
So don't you think the merit-based system could also, or the interview system could also get captured in the same way? Because...
But if that happens, and sure, you would have intransigence there, and you would have corruption in every system. People would try and break the rules. But it's like saying, why have democracy when you have corruption? It's the lesser of the evils,
Yes,
right?
yes.
It's the most sensible working system that we have. So examination is the most sensible, merit-based examinations is the most sensible working system we have. Yes, there are corruptions. Yes, paper leakages happen. Yes, you would find, but I mean that at all times is better than somebody deciding, यार मैं वो lawyer बड़ा अच्छा है उसको ले लेता हूँ. ऐसा हो रहा है. Supreme Court में lawyers judges बन जाते हैं. It's the norm.
Yeah.
I mean, what I mean to say is may not be the norm, but it is very frequent.
It happens, yes.
It happens a lot. Secondly, I'm also not saying that, yes, if I'm against judges electing themselves, is the system where the politicians elect the judges, is that better? Absolutely not. That might be worse, because we know politicians always love to, basically have their own man or a woman in all fields. We've seen it the moment you have a new state government come in. Within the first week, what happens? En masse, 600 IAS officers are shunted out. SP comes, BJP comes, Congress comes, any party comes. सबसे पहले जो पहले सब काम कर रहे थे वहाँ पे, उनको शंट. आप क्या, what is the message you're sending? कि all those who were working, they are biased towards their erstwhile ruling dispensation. That's the message you're sending. तो हम अपने लोग ला रहे हैं. Politicians, the moment they start selecting judges, यहाँ पे ऐसा है, it's not that politicians don't have a say at all. Politicians have a say.
Right.
For example, and there's a wonderful book called Supreme Whispers. He's written by Chandrachud, not the
Senior Chandrachud.
not the senior, but the junior
yes.
one. So it's basically a cataloging of commentary by erstwhile Supreme Court judges. And there is a chapter where they say that a High Court judge, I forget his name now, was about to be elevated to the Supreme Court. And the file went to then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. And his name was struck down. You know why? Because he did the fatal error of attending the funeral of a RSS chief. That's all. Don't you think that is political interference? So politicians do that. So what's the system then, you say? आप judges के against है कि वो judge को elect करें. आप politicians के तो definitely against हैं कि उनको में. So then there has to be an exam which is above board. So I don't want doctors to elect doctors. I don't want politicians to elect doctors. I want a merit-based examination system to elect doctors. Why should judiciary be different? That's all I'm saying. Have one standard.
So, I mean, I get that you talked about judicial double standards.
Yes.
And you have also often talked about how judiciary has double standards when it comes to a specific religion.
Oh, yes.
And when it comes to Hindus, they are absolutely nonchalant in a way.
Yes.
अभी आपने recently भी comment किया था Sabarimala issue पे,
Yes.
है ना? Now that they are going to hear it,
Correct.
the gender row and everything.
Yes.
Any thoughts on that you'd like to share on this platform about it?
Yeah, it's just the double standards that irks me, you know. I mean, I don't mind somebody having a view, but then let's be consistent about it. So when the Supreme Court says, remember वो Justice Gawai ने जो उनका वो विष्णु की मूर्ति पे जो बहुत controversy हो गई थी, कि विष्णु से कहो head अपना लगवा लें. I can't remember, it was like 6-7 months ago. And then said the Supreme Court respects all religions. But I said the Supreme Court might respect all religions, but it mocks only one. That is my problem.
Okay.
And what is this thing about respecting all religions, but not having the guts to talk about or asking for reforms in all other religions except Hinduism? I mean, if people believe Hinduism, I believe it's a way of life, and there is an aspect of Hinduism that has a religious connotation, but that's just hair splitting, some might say. I'll give you an example. Sabarimala, as you asked. Now, is it discrimination or is it perceived discrimination? After all, there are about 450, 500 odd Lord Ayyappa temples. Only in the Sabarimala Ayyappa temple is this request made by the deity, that is, by the way, considered a living form. That is why Hindu temples pay income tax also. It is his request that because he is taken the vow of brahmacharya, celibacy, he doesn't want women in a certain age bracket who are menstruating to come to that temple. Only that Ayyappa temple.
Yeah.
Women can come in all other Lord Ayyappa temples. And even here, women can come except in that age bracket. Now people are saying that is discrimination. That would have been discrimination if women were not allowed in any Lord Ayyappa temple. That would have been discrimination if some temples allowed women, and the fact of the matter is that men were allowed in all temples. There are Hindu temples where men are not allowed. Brahmaji temple is one example. There are many, in Kerala as well. So when you have temples where men are not allowed, when you have a temple where women of a certain age bracket are not allowed, that's not discrimination. That's like you're qualifying. Because I'm a living deity, this is my wish. Now, I am not saying that one must at all times respect whatever the wish of the deity is. By the way, Constitution, there are ample judgments. In fact, 2025 Madras High Court judgment also has said that Constitution supersedes the wish of a deity. So that's a separate matter altogether. But in this case, the deity is requesting something, and there are dozens of temples where men are not allowed. So did you fight for that, for men to be allowed there? You would, if that you perceive that as discrimination. But men are allowed in other temples, women are allowed in other. So this was not a case of discrimination per se, that was according to me. Secondly, and here comes the double standard, if you're that worried about women being discriminated in Hindu religion, तो भैया, a Catholic woman cannot be ordained as a priest. उसके लिए चुप क्यों? there are many mosques in Kerala, around India, where women are not allowed in the sanctum sanctorum. And in some cases, even if they are allowed, they have to sit separately.
Okay.
So you have double standards when it comes to discrimination against women. Why do you have it? Because you don't have the guts. And चार नींबू निचोड़ने से दूध भी इतना नहीं फटता.
That dialogue of yours is very famous.
Yes. I just clarified. I don't want you to mishear it. But it's a fact. And I mean, to be serious, when people say this is a fascist government, Hindutva fascist, Arey bhai, Shah Bano judgment came. It was a great judgment. You were fighting for the rights of a poor widow. And the Supreme Court said all she's asking is, I think at that point of time, 75 rupees. And that decision was overturned by the government.
The parliament at the time.
Yes, because you wanted to appease the Muslims, right? यहाँ पे did Modi overturn the Sabarimala judgment? यहाँ पे तो discrimination भी नहीं हो रहा था. वहाँ तो पक्का discrimination हो रहा था. यहाँ पे he hasn't overturned it. So, you know, this is the kind of fallacy that people spread. Ultimately, justice has to be, I mean, I'm sorry using the cliche, not only seen to be, what is it? Not only must be done, it must be seen to be done. यहाँ पे दोनों नहीं हो रहा है. Not only is justice not being done, and it's not also not being seen to be done. I have great reservations about this.
But do you think the judiciary tends to fall for ideological pressures also when it's taking such decisions? I'm going to wrap a little bit of what you said about Sabarimala and triple talaq also.
Yes.
Sabarimala ki judgment aap padhoge to, you know, there's a lot of issues when it comes to untouchability also. They've gone so far as to say that this is untouchability, where a woman who's menstruating is not being allowed inside the temple. Yeah. But when you're looking at triple talaq ban, which also recently came out, they are talking only about the technicalities.
By the way, one esteemed lawyer, I possibly not name her, she said banning triple talaq was curtailing free speech, if I am not mistaken.
Oh, I should recollect this because I'm not able to right now.
Yeah.
But who is this? I don't remember.
Is this off the record or on the record?
Well, off the record is only the name of the flagship.
I'll tell you. But I have to be absolutely precise. But you can research on that. But I think that's what but look, your question was pertaining to specifically whether untouchability is happening. Now you look at, I can rattle out the verses. There are at least half a dozen verses, many in Quran, where a menstruating woman is not allowed to do 5 or 6 things.
Okay.
And of course not have sexual intercourse is one. Not so many other things, including not to touch the Quran. Okay. Now, should you redact those verses? क्यों भाई? Discriminate क्यों कर रहे हो menstruating woman के साथ? वो दम नहीं है Supreme Court में. According to me, the actions of a menstruating woman, logically, should be, or let's put it this way, a menstruating woman should be granted all rights that any other non-menstruating woman is also granted. What is menstruation? It's I mean, it's embarrassing to even state it, and I'm not just saying it as a scientist. It's just a natural phenomena. You know?
And that is why...
why is menstruating something, मतलब उसको qualify कैसे कर दिया यार? मुझे समझ में नहीं आ रहा भाई.
So that is why the feminist in me also tends to agree with what they did with the gender role, Sabarimala.
Right.
But at the same time, there is also the religious inkling to understand that there is a specific want of the deity, and that has to be respected. So that balance is very important.
So if it was based on religion, then you can still say that, look, I have a problem. Like as I said, there are many religious practices that do not conform to giving equal rights or equal freedoms to everyone. As I said, there is a fundamental contradiction between Article 21 and 25. If you believe in one, you can't believe in the other. There are hundreds of religious diktats that infringe on your right to life and dignity, right? They're still allowed. I mean, you've seen for example, a Muharram procession, and I've written about this. People die in there. You know, you have those steel claws and you whip your back and everything. Now you can say that this is my religious right to partake in it. Fine. But then why is the Supreme Court or any court coming down on other religious practices, Hindu ritual practices? Why is animal sacrifice in Kullu Dashera, or that was the High Court judgment, banned? Why don't you ban halal? Are you saying halal is not ritual? Of course it is ritual. I can tell you the process of how halal is done. The head of the animal has to be aligned to Kaaba. Only a Muslim can perform halal. You have to say Bismillah Rahman Rahim. It's a ritual. Hindu ritual को कह के एनिमल राइट्स पे अफेक्ट हो रहा है वो बैन कर दिया. इसमें बैन करने में क्या, वो 4 नींबू है नहीं मेरे पास, बट वही है, you know.
I agree with you to a
It's
to a
just
large
double
extent.
standards. I mean, don't have double standards. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying don't remove discriminatory practices from Hindu religion. They have been removed through centuries. It is only Hinduism and to a large extent Christianity in the Western world that have seen reform, and that's good. Why should, and that's why I say in Hinduism, religion is an offshoot of a way of life, whereas in Islam, way of life is an offshoot of religion. Now, what do I mean by that distinction? Religion has a set of rules or dogma, right? So if your way of life is an offshoot of that, your way of life is constrained by that dogma, by those set of rules.
Yes.
In Hinduism, religion is an offshoot of way of life. Ways of life change. You know, there are so many practices that were done 2000 years ago in Hinduism that are anachronistic is the word. I don't know. They're no longer followed. You know, Hindu code bill आया था कि नहीं आया था 1950?
Correct.
Muslim code bill आया?
वो लाया ही नहीं ना.
क्यों?
They didn't bring it. Like Nehru got the
And the
Hindu
reason is
code
now,
and,
am I going to
yeah.
say char nimbu, or am I going to force you to say char nimbu?
No, ideological pressures definitely. Vote bank politics definitely.
Of course.
Yes, yes.
That's all I'm saying. You have one rule, and you should have the guts to follow that rule. And politicians will never have guts. तो उन पे तो होप है ही नहीं, पर जजेस में तो होना चाहिए ना. जिस दिन जजेस के ऊपर से वो गट्स चली जाएंगी, then I'm afraid, this country, as I say, we were a banana republic ever since we became a republic.
Are you fond of Ambedkar?
Yes,
that's the
absolutely,
first question.
absolutely, yes.
He did want a lot of social reform.
Yes.
And I want to read out what exactly you had written about him.
Yes.
You often invoke him, and you describe him as someone who understood the tension. He wanted social reform through the constitution, but didn't want the label secular, and he didn't want it fraudulently. So there's a piece you had written about this.
I have written a lot about Ambedkar. I mean,
yes, you have.
I wrote about his life. I think 2015, 16 I wrote about, and I also made a comparison with a very famous scientist. I'm so sorry, I'm forgetting, maybe J.J. Thompson or someone, how the lives were, so parallel going in England and out here. Yes, I mean, he went through terrible time, and I reflected. Waiting for a Visa is his, I think that's the book. I'm so sorry, my memory escapes me. Yeah, he went through a lot, and I've said it before, you would be hard put to find someone who was as objective about any subject as Ambedkar was. And the tragedy is that sides, we've started worshipping Ambedkar. And the problem with that is the moment you start worshipping someone, you stop following that person, So people talk about what Ambedkar said about Hinduism. I have written about it. But there is no mention of what he said about Islam. People talk about Ambedkar in all sorts of dimensions without, having the guts to say that he was the only person at that point of time who said the communal tensions between Hindus and Muslims would continue if we do not have an exchange of population. Now, can you imagine today somebody saying this? If a BJP guy were to say this, he'll be hung from the nearest lamppost.
Castigated, yeah.
Yes. Ambedkar said so many things about Islam, about Hinduism, selectively quote karte hain. And the tragedy is that Ambedkar himself today he would be accused of whataboutery, because when you expose the hypocrisy of someone, immediately, acha, what about you are indulging in what? There is no other ways or means to expose the hypocrisy of someone. If you are castigating someone or some entity, and you weren't castigating something similar that happened, you're a hypocrite.
Right.
If you're criticizing BJP for something and you gave the Congress a pass, you're a hypocrite. If somebody says, what about you were silent then? That's not whataboutery. Or what I mean to say is, I've written on this. And I started, the title of the piece is Ambedkar and Whataboutery. You see, what happened was that there was this Catherine Mayo, I think, she wrote a book on India, Mother India, I think it was called, and it was really a book that castigated India in one sense, Hinduism in another, and I think Mahatma Gandhi called it a drain inspector's report. Everyone was really incensed by that. And Ambedkar said, people who read Mayo's book would be left with the impression that all the societal ills are emanating from Hinduism. That's not the case at all. Half, if not more, of those ills emanate from Islam as well. Now, today people will say, oh, whataboutery pe aa gaya dekho, keh raha hai ki Islam ke bare mein discuss nahi kiya. But any logical person would not be selective. Ambedkar was not selective.
Right.
And people are fair enough, criticize Ambedkar. I have criticized Ambedkar 2.5 times because there's very little to and I've catalogued him. One, that the constitution that he wrote, or together they wrote, already did not have absolute free speech, but that's one aspect of it. But what I mean to say is the fact that he was someone who put everything on the table. Criticize him, don't worship him. And that is the tragedy in this country. Ab everything is Baba Sahab ne ye diya, Baba Sahab ne wo diya, Baba Sahab ne. Arey bhai, Baba Sahab ne bahut sari cheezein kahi hain. Unko follow karne ki himmat nahi hai. He also wanted targeted reservations. And at least in the legislature, he wanted for 10 years. Constitution Assembly debates agar aap padhein uska. The ex-Chief Justice has said that for 10 to 30 years, the reservations, he wanted them to be limited.
Correct.
वो किसी की politician की हिम्मत है वो करने की. यहाँ तो उल्टी गंगा बह रही है.
A moral absolutism free speech absolutism की बात करें तो.
Yes.
A lot of critics have also said that when it comes to Umar Khalid and Sharjeel Imam,
Yes.
their speech should also fall under that for you.
No, I've explained that.
You have. You've continuously said that there's a difference between free speech and there's a difference between creating hate speech and leading to
I'm
riots.
for hate speech also.
Acha.
So let me just qualify.
Yes.
So when I say I'm a free speech absolutist, it comes with 4 commonsensical caveats. What are they? Number 1, in the name of free speech, you cannot divulge military secrets and state secrets. Obviously. कल को कोई पाकिस्तान पकड़ के ले जाए जनरल को कहे मैंने free speech में ना अपनी military formations बता दी. Right? That's not free speech for me. That's one caveat. Anything, whenever you indulge in speech and it physically harms somebody else or your country, that should be qualified. So that's, for example, you cannot in the name of free speech shout fire in a crowded theatre because that will harm the people who are sitting there. There'll be a stampede, somebody might be killed. So you are harming someone physically in the name of free speech. That is not acceptable to me. You cannot, in the name of free speech, palpably and live basically incite a mob कि मैं ये नारा लगा के चलो मारते हैं लोगों को. That doesn't come. So that's the third caveat. And 4, you cannot infringe on defamatory laws. For example, somebody can say, Anand, you are corrupt. Fine. What is corruption? Corruption is cash. But I'm okay with that. Comes in free speech. But you cannot say, Anand, you took 1,000 crores from Ambani. Right? Then I'll sue you. So these are the 4 commonsensical caveats. Other than that, everything should be kosher. And when the Supreme Court, when Nupur quoted Islamic scriptures or derived something that was from, and the Supreme Court says you burned the country down.
Yeah.
How do I even get my head around it? Tomorrow they can't say they will stop quote unquote kafirs from even quoting scriptures. We are going in the other direction. There already are quote unquote blasphemy laws in Punjab. You know,
Yeah.
you cannot insult, you cannot do any religious scripture, you can't. क्या चल रहा है यहाँ पे? You know, that is what I am against.
Constitutional morality for you or democratic accountability? If you had to choose one.
That's a very tough. Yeah, अब ये rapid fire नहीं, क्योंकि देखो, I am not for a referendum, right? I am not. Referendum के basis पे, I am not for vox populi in that sense. You know, tomorrow the 80% of the population may demand something. जैसे केजरीवाल का था referendum
कर दो.
या मैं उनसे वही पूछता हूँ, 80% of the people तब राम मंदिर नहीं बना था, 80% of Indians से referendum कर लो, राम मंदिर बनना चाहिए. Would you be for it then? Would you be for such a referendum? So referendum, don't just go by what the population wants, because many times you also have to have a very reasoned, logical view on things. You elect people who become experts in their fields, who think about it. Now, both systems have their flaws.
Yes.
Right? So, you know, you can say, well, you are calling me an expert. Let me have this view that would be applicable to 1.4 billion people. That also has its flaws, you know.
Correct.
Who made you an expert? कैसे बन गए भाई? मेरा व्यू है वो बेटर है. दूसरी साइड पे आप पूरा एक 1 बिलियन लोग कुछ भी कह दें कल, तो आप मान लोगे वो. So there is a balance that needs to be struck, and I think the right balance is 1 billion people select somebody who then, based on much more educated logic and reasoning, comes to a conclusion, and people respect it.
And then they decide the constitutional morality
Correct.
of the whole.
So there are many
system.
things that I don't like in the Constitution, starting from the free speech clauses. How can free speech be subject to something? I mean, those caveats or not. For example, in our Constitution, after the first amendment that Nehru brought, free speech is subject to public order. Decency. कौन decide कर रहा है decency क्या है भाई? I can go tomorrow and say Khajuraho, which is the most beautiful endowment of Indian civilization, I can say it is indecent.
Correct.
तो क्या तोड़ दोगे उसको? So, you know, that's what I'm.
Judicial restraint or judicial courage?
Judicial courage, absolutely.
So there shouldn't be restraint, you're saying?
What do you mean by restraint?
By not getting into other domains, where you've also spoken about suo motu actions a lot,
Yes,
the judges take.
yes.
So do you think they should step back there, or they should continue with the courage, or which may be in a
No,
different line?
I'm for judicial activism.
Okay.
I'm for. You put your views.
Right.
Absolutely. And this is something that is very vexing for me. You know, you have these CSS or CSS rules that public servants, they can't say this. क्यों भाई? पॉलिटिशियन के मन में जो आ रहा है वो बोल रहा है. आपने सिविल सर्वेंट को क्यों रोका हुआ है यार?
Correct.
You know, एक दो सिविल सर्वेंट थे, वो अब लोग खुश होते हैं कि देखो लाइन पे आ गया, बोल नहीं पा रहा है. मन में कुछ भी चल रहा हो उसके बोल. दिस इज, यू नो, इट इज अगेंस्ट डेमोक्रेसी.
मतलब जब तक रिटायर नहीं होगा तब तक नहीं मुंह नहीं खोल सकता. People say that.
Yeah. और कई लोग तो कहते हैं भाई मैं नहीं बोल रहा. वो CEA था, I forget his name, सुब्रमण्यम था. He said मैं नहीं बोलूंगा, my job is at risk, or I'm paraphrasing him. Bloody coward, yaar. You know. But that is what the people believe, that you would govern better if everyone was a sheep. That is what people believe. And I believe exactly the opposite. Because what you're doing is it's simmering inside you. All that tension, pent up anger that I'm not able to say what I want to say.
Correct.
You know, when politicians can say whatever they want to say. So, not for restraint at all. Yes, अपना view थोपना नहीं, वो अलग बात हो गई फिर. You know. But yeah, I mean, you know, our backs must be made of, I've written, pavement stone. कि फर्क ही नहीं पड़ता है, you know, जितना भी whip कर दो. So I am for judicial activism.
Contempt law, reform or repeal?
Total repeal, absolute repeal. It's a disgrace that you have. Look, I mean, I'm for respecting the judiciary, and if I nearly went to jail, to be honest, twice the judge used the word conviction, and then Sai turned around and it was like Atticus, you know. He fought 40 minutes, and amazing his speech that he gave. But I would have respected the sentence, in fact, Sai was saying कि 4:30 बजे तक हम appeal कर सकते हैं, but I would have been taken straight to Tihar from the High Court itself. I would have respected it. You have your view, I have mine. But that doesn't mean that I am okay with contempt. I mean, and I was fighting, I stood up for somebody else's right to free speech.
Yes.
I didn't opine that the judge was wrong or judge was right. I said this fellow, like I was for a protest march. I was not for, I didn't say that this protest march is good and I support it, I'm against whatever happening. I was for the right of a newspaper to say what the newspaper wants to say. Usme bhi thok diya contempt yaar, So that's I'm against contempt.
Protest के बारे में अभी आप कल ही परसों ही आप you were on a public debate where you talked about how the Congress protested at the AI summit.
Oh, yesterday.
And they took off yesterday.
Yes.
They took off their vests and then you took off your jacket on the debate. So we are wary of that. The fact that you like to join the protest.
But Congress, there's an element of mirth in whatever these youth congressias do. In 2012, the Time had a cover on which it put Dr. Manmohan Singh, the late Dr. Manmohan Singh, as an underachiever. You must have heard of that. And the Congress was incensed. They collected a mob, and that incensed mob went to burn copies of Time. They got confused and they thought Times of Times, so Times of India की copies burn कर दी उन्होंने.
Oh. Oh God.
So that's Congress for you.
On that note, thank you very much.
Absolute
for your
pleasure.
time.
Such a
It was
pleasure.
wonderful. Thank you.